a big piece of this is both inexperience and cowardice of leaders. And I mean presidents of universities, CEOs of companies, heads of foundations, their inexperience with being attacked by a Twitter mob. Because some of these stories begin when something happens and there's a Twitter mob organized, and the head of the university or the foundation or the company says, oh my God, this is horrible. Let's get rid of this problem right away. Right. And then someone is immediately fired without any investigation or any procedures at all, because they want to end this terrible PR problem. And having people get used to those problems, or having a procedure already in place and thinking about it in advance and saying, right, well, we know what we're going to do, which is we're going to tell the Twitter mob, okay, we're now going to investigate this, and there will be, and we will decide, in 2 months from now or whatever, 5 weeks from now, we will make a statement, but not to make these immediate decisions. That are simply a reaction to this fear of being attacked. And anybody who hasn't been attacked, I have been, so I know what that's like. But if you haven't been before, the first time it happens, absolutely terrifying. I mean, from nowhere, people you don't know and anonymous accounts are writing stuff about you that's not true. What do you do? How do you stop that? And any, I don't know, president of the University of Minnesota, who that happens to, may, understandably react and say, oh my God, how do I make this stop? And I think what we need is a kind of training for people to get used to it and
knowing that the mob moves on.
And the mob moves on.
Which Trump showed. He could say something outrageous, and then 3 days later,
everyone forgot.
Everyone forgot because maybe there was a new outrageous thing. The last thing, tell me about your own experience. Tell us about.
So I've had several different experiences. I mean, the one that was weirdest and most worrying involved a series of articles that were written about me by a guy who doesn't matter. I mean, subsequently turned out to have been one of the final KGB recruits in Washington in the 1980s, who was an Australian journalist based in.
That's cool. That could be the Moscow. Basis of a Netflix.
So I found out a lot about him, actually, but he wrote these scurrilous articles about me that implied that I was making too much money and that my money came from mysterious sources.
When was this?
This was well, I can tell you when it was. It was in 2014. It was right after the Ukraine crisis, because it was an attempt to. And he published on these there are these various Russia specialty websites. And he published on this one website, and then the article would appear in lots of other places. And then it would appear I would see it quoted in another website, and then I would find it somewhere else. And then it appeared on Ron Paul's Institute website, all kinds of weird places would repeat this story. And at the sort of height of this, the story was tweeted by Julian Assange of WikiLeaks.
Wow, that's a kind of humble brag of epic proportions.
Well, no, so the weird things about strange thing
we
about
should all be we should all want to be tweeted.
So the strange thing about it, so first of all, this was my first hint that WikiLeaks had something to do with Russia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second of all, the other odd thing about it was that although of course I was reading all this stuff and it was, oh my God, this isn't true. How do I make it stop? No one I knew saw any of it. So Julian Assange has 2 million Twitter followers, but no one seemed to notice. And so, and this is how I began to understand that, this is all happening on some part of the internet, and there's like whole other parts of internet where nobody even knows what I'm talking about, so I actually talked to a libel lawyer, because there were actually libelous things about me stealing money or something like that. And there were some details in it that were borrowed from, it's a long story because my husband was a Polish politician. There were aspects of our financial life that had been printed on a Polish website. He had to do a declaration of assets, and some of that appeared. So he'd done research, right? And he had somebody who spoke Polish helping him. And so there were some pieces of it that were true and some that weren't, and I talked to a libel lawyer about it, and the libel lawyer basically brushed it off. He was like, first of all, this guy lives in Russia. Doesn't have any money, no point suing him. And then he made the same point. He was like, and does this really affect your reputation? Does anybody care? And the answer was, of course, no. But if you are the person who's being written about, and who's being the subject of this what it was a Russian disinformation campaign, then it seems really important and urgent. And, that was how I learned that you just wait for it to be over.